Something occurred to me driving home tonight, in that those of us who are interested in literature, stories, good writing, books, and narrative may unconsciously have a good gatekeeper when it comes to interactions, especially romantic ones and relationships. Let me explain. It's no surprise that some of the guys I've had great conversations with on my channel, like Spetsnaz and Quasimandias, are people that love literature, mythopoetic hero stories. They love writing and the lessons that you can learn from those things. And driving home tonight, it made me think that, those of us who have a natural interest and love of storytelling and writing and literature may have an unwitting advantage over a lot of guys growing up today that are passively given storylines in movies or video games and so forth, where you're told that a woman can kick your ass and she can be the heroine and she can save the day, the girl power narrative and so forth. The difference being that if one is interested in storylines and narratives that reflect reality in the real world, you ask yourself why I didn't like that story. And it made me think that the gatekeeper for me, as I got older and more interested in writing, personal writing, journaling, writing fictional stories, is that a lot of it has to not only adhere to structure, but realistic structure. What would this character do? If character A chose path 1, then that would most likely lead to outcomes 2 and 3, for instance. And so it made me think that as I was growing up enjoying literature, when I'd meet women that would sell me their narrative of, here's the story I'd like you to be involved in, where you just give and I receive, part of me would pick up and say, that's a shit story. That's a shit narrative. And it's because I was very interested in writing and story structure, what allegory is, how on the surface a story might show one thing, but the lesson is quite another. And being able to discern that elegance in a story and seeing that if a stranger presents you with gold, one asks the question, why? Why am I receiving this for free? What do they require of me? And I think not reading between the lines and almost non-appreciation of any story structure other than sort of the bells and whistles of what's given to you. We're not that interested in story today and narrative. We're interested in spectacle. As long as it makes a big noise and a big sound, it tingles our senses, but it does not make sense, if you know what I mean. So it made me think that this is another benefit of trying to be interested enough in yourself, in your own psychology and writing and journaling. And if you've got the benefit of loving to read and literature, it can really help you, even if it's subconsciously, because when a relationship comes your way that looks out of balance, straight away, your writer's mind says, this is an awful story. I don't want to be in this story. And when you ask the writer, using the metaphor, a woman coming to you with her story and saying, I want you to be part of this story of you and me. And you read the script and you have some questions and you ask her. And the more you discuss it with her, it's an awful story for you to be in. Think about that, gentlemen, how it can really help you take a look at the narrative that's being placed in front of you by somebody else. And you almost being the book publisher or the editor and saying, no, this won't sell, and you hand it back to her. Have a think about that. Have a think about how we critique movies fairly objectively. We don't like a TV series because as if this and that would happen. That really doesn't seem realistic. We're doing it less and less in relationships because we're getting distracted by the spectacle of superhero stories. We're getting sucked into the fairy tale superhero story of man and woman without any lesson, without any mentoring or teaching. Pay attention to the story and the narrative that's being handed to you And if you're versed in writing your own stories, you're versed in writing and journaling, and it starts to kind of help you become the observer, the reader of this narrative that's being placed in front of you. And you can see yourself as, I'm supposed to be this character, and she's this character. This is a very unfair story. This is an awful story. This is a story of a tyrant. This is a tragedy. And you'll be able to quickly see what kind of story and genre this is. Something to think about, gentlemen. And why, aside from the basics of grammar and communication, why you might want to become a little bit more interested in reading and writing for the narrative of your own life. I think it's something very, very important to think about. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon. If you appreciate my work, feel free to support me. Links on my channel. Thank you.